This week I want to share with you one type of case I will not take and why. Hi, Larry Kaye here with ShadowAnyone.com and the creator of the Investigator's Ultimate Guide series, premium private investigator training from someone who's been there and done that. And that's kind of the key here. Been there, done that. I've done this stuff long enough that I've seen the ups and downs, the changes, the things that go on. And so let me tell you the type of case I will not take and why. I used to do these, and the type of case, but I've stopped, and the type of case is an asset location. Now, an asset is something of value that a person has. This can be, motor vehicle or property or bank accounts, mutual funds, things like that. And years ago, that's the type of case I would take. Now, what will happen is someone will come to you, frequently someone who's maybe loaned money, a company that needs to recoup losses from a person, and they want to know what assets this person as a defendant has. They've gone to court. Sometimes it'll be, a spouse, a divorce type thing, where maybe the wife thinks the husband is hiding assets in order to pay less spousal support or child support. And they come to you as an investigator and say, hey, I'd like to know the assets this person has. How much money do they really have, and where is it? Now, this is a very difficult type of case to take. A big tool that used to be used in doing asset location was pretext. And it would go something like this. The investigator would call the bank posing as the account holder and try to get information. And the three things were typically, does this person have an account there? What is the account number or numbers, and how much money is in those accounts? And those were the three things, and generally in that order. That's how you would progress trying to find the information. The reason that we don't do that anymore is because it's now illegal. And you might say to yourself, well, that should have always been illegal. And what happened was, years ago, the politicians woke up to the fact that criminals and bad guys were pretexting information from banks and then draining the bank account. Once they had this information, they could create, say, phony checks or credit cards, debit cards, and they knew what numbers to put on them. They knew how much money was in the account, and they would drain the accounts. And so the politicians said, well, we have to stop this. We'll make this pretexting illegal. Now, it's always been illegal to steal money from the banks, to take money from the accounts. The theft was always illegal, but the politicians seem to feel that making the pretexting illegal, that will stop them. They will not steal anymore because it's illegal to pretext the information. Of course, it doesn't work that way. All that they did by passing these laws, and these are at a federal level, it covers the entire U.S., is they took away this kind of handy tool from investigators who are working even for legitimate purposes. Of course, an investigator would never go drain the account, but they would take to an attorney or to a client, here, this guy has two different bank accounts at two different banks, and here's the assets that he has, even though he says he doesn't. So it was a tool for justice. It was a tool to make sure that everybody got what they were due. Of course, now, like I say, that's illegal. It's illegal all over the U.S. So it makes asset location very difficult because there's just not databases for this type of thing. It's not like a lot of things nowadays where you can go online, tap a few keystrokes, and get information, say an address history or that type of thing. So in order to do an asset location, it's much more in depth. It requires much more digging. There are investigators that will still do it. And let me be clear, it's still legal to do an asset investigation. It's just so difficult because it's illegal to use pretexting. So now what an asset location looks like is maybe going through these databases or making requests to different agencies. So you might do a motor vehicle check, run it through the state Bureau of Motor Vehicles, Department of Motor Vehicles, whatever you have, and see what vehicles this person owns. You will check property records to see the property this person owns. You might check boating registration to see if this person owns any boats, and that type of thing. Businesses, does this person own any businesses? Those types of searches you can legally make, and that would go into an asset report. Now here comes the problem, is that asset reports are very expensive. It's not uncommon to find like a $2,500 price tag attached to an asset search. And if the client understands what they're getting and the flaws and weaknesses, then that may be perfectly fine. But it takes a lot of real work. You can't just sit at a computer. So even a company that offers maybe an information broker or a database service that says we have a nationwide asset search, they're going to run a quick computer search through, say, the 50 Department of Motor Vehicles and boat registration. They're going to look at online property records, things like that, to try to determine if this person owns property. You have problems there because, one, not all that information is online, and two, it's spotty when it is. So they may say we have 95% of all boat owners are in our database. And you say, well, that's pretty good odds, I'll take that. But why? Look at the fine print. Why do you not have 100%? Well, come to find out, maybe Illinois is missing. And you say, well, that's not a big deal to me. But Illinois is along one of the Great Lakes, and you could have a lot of boating up there. Maybe that's important to you, maybe it's not. And the other thing that you have to look at is they might have something like, yeah, we've got Florida where there's all these boats that are owned, but we only have 2009 to 2014 records there. Okay, well, that may be a bit of a problem too. Now, if you understand all those little fine print things with the database service, that may be fine for you and it may be a good starting point. But I'll bet you your client would be very disappointed, especially if they were in Florida or Illinois. So you have to look at those types of things. A real asset search is very difficult and time consuming. Now, you may, as an investigator, say, this is something that I could be pretty good at. I want to add this to what I offer my clients, and it can be a real unique selling proposition. You may be the only person in your city or area that offers an asset search, but really start to think what goes into that. You're going to have to run maybe not nationwide, but much more limited. So you're going to run the state Bureau of Motor Vehicles to get vehicle registrations. You're going to run through the state boat registration. You're going to look through business filings for your state. Property records are held best at the county level. So you may look at every county that the subject has lived in or worked in for the last 7 years or 10 years, however far back you want to go. And there are all sorts of other records, but it's going to be very time intense, and you cannot use pretexting to get any kind of banking information. Brings us back around to, what if the person has a retirement account with a major brokerage firm? What if the person has a safety deposit box, maybe right in the county where you are? How would you find that? There's no database or source for that. And your client may be very disappointed to find out. You may bring them a database search that says he owns these 2 vehicles, no boats were found, just this one primary residence property was found, no other assets located. If your client believes that means that he has no other assets, your client is going to be very disappointed with the work you do. So this is why I don't do asset locations. The primary tools that got us the information the clients really wanted, which a lot of times is that bank account information, just cannot come up anymore. Enough said on that. I do want to say that there are cases that you should be taking. And the cases you should be taking are the cases that what you take or don't take is up to you, but think about it. If you have a skill set that you're really good at, you should, if you have a legitimate client, really be seriously thinking about taking those cases. So if your skill set is in surveillance, boy, you should be thinking about taking those surveillance cases, right? If you're a good process server, take the process server. And that leads to all sorts of other work, especially with law firms who are reasonable clients and who understand the limitations, even if they do want you to do something else. So that's, you, as long as you're informed and understand when you take a case or a type of case, that's very important. You see detective agencies, their websites or their advertisements list 13 different things that they do. Asset location, industrial intelligence, skip tracing, domestic work, surveillance. They're not good at all that stuff. Countermeasure sweeps, and that's a good example. Countermeasure sweeps, if a client were to come to me for that, I might say, yes, we can do that for you, but I outsource it. I have somebody who's very capable who runs a company that does that. They have the equipment, the training, they're up to date. So, maybe with asset location, that's the type of thing you want to do. If you have somebody you trust, You can use them for asset locations and offer that in your area where no one else is offering that. But remember, you're responsible for the investigators and sources and database services that you bring on board. If they're doing something illegal, that responsibility rests on you. If you have any kind of case that you don't take, there might be others out there, but I wanted to concentrate on this primary one because of such an illegal, because the tools that used to be used are now illegal, and I wanted to give you that warning. But if you have a type of case that you don't take, let me know. Hit it in the comments below, especially if you're watching this at my blog at shadowanyone.com. Throw it in the comments there. I would love to hear your input on this. This is Larry Kaye with shadowanyone.com. Remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.